Oh, hello, Jeff Sharples. My name is Ian Begg. I'm a comedian. You're a pilot. You're in a hotel room, but you're not flying anywhere. You're just practicing.
That's right. I'm over for 3 days of practice. It's like a pregame skate.
Is it a pregame
You know?
skate or is it preseason?
No, it's always mid-season, but this is different things come up over the course of time,
Hmm.
and as you know, well, maybe not so much. I don't know if they have that in comedy, but a lot of
No,
other
we don't.
jobs, stuff that comes up, uh, and so they put it into training. So you can be ready to see it, and they give you stuff that you're never expecting in a
Yeah.
thousand years, and then they say deal with it. So that's what we're
Our
doing this week. So
our latest thing was if we're in comedy was a guy brought a gun into a club last week and started shooting in in North Carolina, which I'm going to in August. So, yeah, so good times.
yeah, but you're a local out there,
I'm a
I
local.
mean, you know all the guys that are carrying the guns out there, so
That's right. I'll tell him
shouldn't
to
be
put the
too big of
safety on. Put the
yeah,
safety
exactly.
on. Come on. You took the
Maybe
course for
just
my brother-in-law.
just leave it in your pocket. That's the best thing to do.
Ah,
But
blow your balls off.
yeah, so you're going
uh,
out there. Are you going to Richmond? Are you doing the gig in? Is it Richmond that you did the gig in, right? Or is it
uh,
Norfolk?
Virginia Beach. I'm doing Virginia Beach
Oh,
Funny
yeah.
Bone on August the 11th, and I'm doing the North Carolina Raleigh Improv 4 through 6 is what I'm doing, and then I'm doing Atlanta 12th, 11th, 12th, or 12th and 13th. So that should be fun.
Yeah. Well, the improv you're doing in Virginia Beach, that's the one we were at before, right?
Funny, it's a funny bone, 350 people. The improv that I'm going to in North Carolina, 550 people. I can't even sell 250 tickets there. So it's going to be fantastic. But you know who's opening? He was emceeing for me.
Don't say
Ex
it.
ex NHL goaltender Scott Darling is going to be my MC.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk about him a little bit today.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know why I always want to bring Richmond, Virginia. I should really go there. I don't think I've ever been there, but
I'll be there in
oh,
November.
okay, maybe I should come out with you because I always equate everything you do out there and where all the family lives out there with Richmond, and it's
Hmm.
really nowhere near where the family actually lives, which is
No.
closer to Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk about Mr. Darling. And a lot of people might not, well, some people might not remember him, but a lot of people would.
He's only been retired a couple years, right?
Yeah, so this guy is really an impressive story, but I didn't even know what he was doing until you told me the other day. So why don't you fill everybody in a little bit on ex NHL goaltender, Mr. Darling?
Scott Darling, who will be a guest on the podcast soon. So we don't want to take too much away from him. Played for Chicago and also played for the Hurricanes. Hence why he's going to be working with me in Raleigh. And since he's retired, he started doing stand up. And it's funny, he used the same words I use. I tried it and I was addicted to it immediately. So that is exactly how I felt. And I was like, oh, so he's originally from Chicago, grew up in Chicago, ended up in the NHL, and from what I recall, he came in like quite hot, right? He wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
number one. He came in. I think he was drafted in the sixth round, which around I think it was around 2003 that he was drafted. Would that have been a right for a goalie around there? Because goalies don't usually go one or two in the first rounds, right?
No, very rarely. I mean, what'll happen if they're very good goalies? They'll everyone will try and hold off on them as long as they can, and then normally once the goalies start to go in the draft, and it's usually the later rounds. I mean, when that happens, then you'll have everybody jump in, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get a goalie now." But
Mm-hmm.
I got to think back. The last goalie that might have been taken first overall might have been one Mr. Marc Andre
That's
Fleury.
exactly what I was
Very
thinking.
rarely, yeah, very rarely they're drafted high. But I'm trying to tie Scott in with where he was with the Hawks because he came in, and I don't know if obviously if he was that early into the organization. I mean, he didn't play as a young guy in the league. I don't think. I think he was in his mid to late 20s, right, when he got in the
Mm-hmm.
league. So that would have been Crawford. Maybe might have been in the net there in. I might be a little even a little before Crawford, but I'm thinking Crawford might have been in the net. But Scott came in. The other goalie got injured. Did a great job in Chicago, and then he parlayed that, I think, into a free agent contract.
That's what I remember is him having to Crawford was dealing with a lot of injuries and him having to step up and being a backup and all of a sudden being a number one and being able to parlay into a career in the Hurricanes organization.
Well, the interesting thing is I've said this before on the show, and I can't wait to talk to him because I always think of Kenny Holland when I think of people who were in the game and have left the game, or people that are transitioning out of the game. He, Kenny always said to me, he goes, I was worried about guys after they finish playing, what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott now is obviously chasing a passion. Hockey was one passion for him. Comedy's another. And I don't know if people know, but he's huge. He's like 6'5". He's a big dude. He'd be eating apple pie off your head. That's how tall he is.
He'll be eating apple pie off your head. Quite the description.
I know. That's an old. I think that's an old Greg Hoggood line I stole from Hoggy from years ago. But he's a big dude. I'm interested to talk to him and see where kind of it's trials and tribulations a lot of time leaving the game. So for him to end up in comedy, as we know from your experience, that's a grind. It's a real grind.
All rainbows and lollipops. I'm curious to see how he fit in as far as height wise, because he was a taller guy. Like when that switch over of kids going from the smaller goalie like a Panger to a 6'5", 6'8" goaltender. You got to get Panger on too.
Well, Sean Burke was a big goalie when I got drafted. I think Sean's 6'3" or 6. Man, he's at least 6'2". He might be 6'3". Maybe he's 6'4". I don't know. He's in Vegas now. Hopefully I'll run into him. I can tell you. But,
some apple pie off his head.
Yeah. Well, and Patrick Wall, what was Patrick Wall? 6'2"?
6'2", yeah.
Mike Vernon was a great goalie. Not a big guy. Guys like that. But I think Scott Darling and that 6'5", 6'6" goaltender, probably he was kind of in the front end of the, hey, we want to have size up and down our lineup, but we want a huge goalie. And so, if you look around the league now at the size of all these goalies, very few of them that, Flower is 6'2", and I would probably consider him, he might be looked at as a little bit of a smaller goaltender now, whereas 10, 15 years ago, he would have been a big goalie. So that's definitely, that position has evolved. And the other thing, and Scott will be happy to hear this because he might not agree with it now that he's a comedian, he might carve the goalies, but goalies are in a lot better shape now than they ever were back in the day. Very few goalies were in the kind of shape
that movement that they do down when they're on their knees. You can't be out of shape doing that. Hips and hips. By the way, just to let everybody know, we don't have a guest today. We're just doing a short one. Jeff is working. I had problems hooking up our guests, whatever. We're just doing a short one. It is summertime, but we are going to have guests the rest of the summer. We do have, Davis Payne. We got, who else do we have? We got a lot of people coming up.
Well, we do. we have people that we asked in June.
Kenny Daniels.
Kenny Daniels. Shane Knight, he said he'll come on and go Sharps. Listen, call me in August. We were out at the Vegas Golden Knights alumni event where they pump gas, where I talked about that. Aggie, Derek Englands. We'll try and get Aggie on one day too, but Aggie's the president of the Vegas Golden Knights alumni. Shane's the vice president. And of course, you guys would all know Shane. He does the Vegas Golden Knights color, but he was also doing TNT during the playoffs. He did the Colorado Nashville, and he did Colorado, I think St. Louis, and he might have done Colorado Edmonton. Anyways, he was on for a while, but we were at they did a thing where they give away was it $40,000 worth of gas, so 800 cars. Yeah, 6 gallons now, $50 a car, which was an amazing event to be at. But I said, "Hey Shane, we do this podcast." Um, he goes, "Oh, Sharps, I'll come on, but call me in August," he said. So,
Call me in August. We'll do it in
hey,
November.
guess what, Shane? It's coming. It's the what is it today, Lord Bag? The 18th or 19th of July. So
Is
in
the
two
18th of
weeks.
July, yeah. And we are heading halfway through summer. So my wife is having a meltdown because she loves summer. We went into Target the other day and they had school stuff up, and she's a very polite lady. And she's, "What the fuck is this?" And I said, "Hey, not everywhere is a stage. Calm down."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Actually, we got to tell that story. I don't know if we've ever told it since, and we'll try and talk about hockey here for a few minutes. But so
Pearl's
Cab, right?
making all
What
sorts of noise over there.
oh, is she? The dogs hate it when Ian gets on the phone. When we talk, Lou always, it's like he knows I'm calling Ian. He's like starts barking his head off. But
He thinks he's going for a
we're
walk. Is that Jeff? We're going for a walk.
that's right. We're gonna go for about half the walk that you take them for. But we were in Target one night. This was a couple of years ago. Me, Ian, and Carrie Ann, and we're wandering through. Carrie Ann was looking for something, so Ian and I were kind of following along like a couple toolboxes, and they've got all of the frozen aisle, like, and these are stand-up refrigerators where you just reach in and grab something frozen, or the very convenient ones. They are all taped off. And so Ian says, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, we've got some kind of problem with their freezers, and the ice cream and all the vegetables and everything's contaminated now, so we can't sell it." So this guy,
About
we're
2 seconds
walking
later,
by.
this guy.
You want to?
No, you finished.
I'll
Go
tell
ahead.
the
I like.
story. I'll tell the story, and then I'm going to leave it to you to the conversation. So this guy, they've got this like yellow crime scene tape
Yeah,
wrapped around this
yeah.
stuff.
That's what it's like. Dead body tape on it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who could have seen probably should leave that alone. Like they had it wrapped really good. Target did. Not good enough for this guy. He just goes in there, wham, fires it open, and grabs some ice cream. And Ian, I'll let you carry on the conversation because only
I
you could
just
do it.
said, don't do that. You're gonna give yourself. You're gonna get diarrhea. As soon as I started talking to him, my wife told me to shut up, quit talking to that person, and I kept going. I said, "You're gonna get it. You're gonna get diarrhea. You're gonna poop yourself."
And the guy was chirping Ian back,
Because,
which is like throwing gas on the fire, right?
yeah, it's like there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what he kept saying. I'm like, man, good luck, water bum. What is yours? Yours is bad boiler. That's what you say.
Oh yeah, he was going to be left with a bad boiler.
Oh,
Now, come to
blah, blah, blah,
Ian
blah.
and I mean, hey, don't kid yourself. Ian and I were looking at the ice cream too, going, man, if there was
Half
only
price?
a way we could get it out there, yeah, half price, refrozen, we'll eat it. But Caps turns to him and goes, Ian, not everywhere's a stage. And then she drops a couple cents enhancers on him. You're not on stage, Ian.
You're not on
And
stage.
away we went. And she just took him down like right to a puddle level. Like there was nothing left of him, obliterated him on in Target. And where's that
walked
Long
away.
Beach we were in? Oh.
Yeah, I walked away like Charlie Brown after missing the football.
Yeah, that was a night to remember. Cab, one fell swoop, boom.
And by the way, we went out for dinner to this place. They do crawfish and crab, and they do a boil, and they just take, and it's called the boiling crab, and they just take a bunch of spices and they put it all in, and then they just dump it on your tail, and you eat corn and crud and shrimp. It's just stupid. You got to do it. America's fun sometimes, boy.
I don't know how we got here.
I don't know if that's.
We went from Target to the boiling crab, but okay. So let's talk about some hockey here real quick.
We'll talk about the hockey. We'll get the people all fired up, and then. And by the way, yeah.
Okay, let's just go here, and then we're going to talk about specific players.
Okay.
So if I was to look at what's gone on so far with the free agency, which is the big deal, so some teams have kind of jumped out at me as, and we might have talked about this last week with Jamie, I don't know, but some teams jumped out at me. Well, number one, I think Colorado's done a really good job. They knew they were going to lose some guys, but they were able to plug other guys in. And Kadri, as of the time we taped this, is still in play. Tough for them. I'm hearing just like everybody else, the teams are trying to clear cap space. Well, we'll see how that goes. I think if teams are having a struggle and he's not going to get what he wants in the open market, then he's probably going to end up back in Colorado, probably on a
What
7-year deal.
do you
8
think?
years.
You think he'll sign for a long time if he doesn't get anything this year? He'll sign for a long one, or not? Or
Well,
1 year.
you know what? I don't know. Maybe he won't get 8 years. I mean, he's 31. He's kind of in a predicament similar to Klingberg. Like, these guys are big time NHL players. They're
Mhm.
looking for their payday. They might have to be patient. Normally, these guys get swallowed up pretty quick. So we'll give
Yeah.
Colorado a lot of credit so far. They've lost some pieces, but you know what? They've done a really nice job of retaining some pieces. Like, Manson's a really nice pickup, or
Right.
not an addition, but a guy to keep for them because he skates really well and he's really physical and he gives them a real edge back there. The other guy I really liked that they kept was Lehkonen, and obviously Helm and Cogliano. And these are guys that are just going to come and work, really play to Colorado's identity of a lot of pace, a lot of work ethic, and a lot, so they're all over you.
And you know what else is this is the year that Makar and Lehkonen, they all kind of took another step as well as far as maturity. So you can drop a couple of those people. You can drop a couple of those people off. So
yeah, there's no question watching them play Tampa, and you
Makar's like 23 too, right?
Yeah, I mean he's not that old at all. I mean, his ability to grow his game is years. As his skating is going to separate himself for his whole career, but he keeps working. And McKinnon, these guys, they just seem, even though you could say that Tampa Bay had a tougher road. Well, you know what? Colorado still had to play 4 rounds like everybody else, like Tampa did, and they were able to find a way. And it just seemed like the team kind of turned the corner. It's going to be really interesting to see. Now, a couple of teams that haven't turned the corner, and I want to get to that, and then I'll let you go on a couple of them. A couple of teams that really impressed me were Ottawa, and another one that really
Ottawa
impressed
did a
me
great.
Detroit.
Ottawa,
right? Yeah. So
and Detroit
Ottawa,
did too.
Yeah, Detroit. And so, I mean, we talk about Stevie and way he built Tampa Bay into kind of what they are now, and give Brisebois credit down there in Tampa Bay too. I mean, he's picked up and all they've done is win. But if you look at what Stevie's done, he's got his drafts. He really likes, he drafts a lot of Swedish kids, a lot of kids from Europe, but he really likes those kind of players. But he's really brought in some real kind of glue, kind of gritty players. He brought in Sherratt. He brought in Perron. These guys will play at a certain level. He took a chance on Kubalik, who wasn't that long ago was lighting the lamp in Chicago, a good young player still. So he's got some veterans that he got, good dollar value on, and gave them a little bit of term. And he's also brought in some younger guys. He got Husso from the Blues, so he shored up his net, right? So Stevie's done a really good job there. He's brought in a guy he's familiar with from Tampa Bay, new coach Lalonde. So
you think he was waiting? Do you think he was waiting for him?
Probably. I mean, Stevie's just a really he was always so dedicated in his work ethic, but he was always really good at at his research and what he wanted to do. And I mean, I just think he's done a great job wherever he's been, and it looks like
No slouch.
They're slowly putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and they're in a really tough division, but they're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. They're going to be tougher to play against. And I'll leave it on this, on Detroit. And I say this about all the original 6 teams, but the league is so much better when they're good. Just look at the Rangers being in the Final Four this year. It was so great. There's a buzz about those teams, and New York was that team this year. Ottawa, I mean, you can talk about them a little bit. I just thought what they're doing and what they're trying to do is very impressive, because they're stuck between Toronto and Montreal, and that's between a rock and a hard place if you're trying to grow a fan base and a team.
I'll tell you what Ottawa is doing is they got the 2 daughters running that team, which is going to give you a new fan base of what's going on, because you see 2 young ladies running a team and letting people create this market into an exciting thing. Like that's going to be a very exciting team, I think. And being able to being able to get rid of Matt Murray, which I thought was a horseshoe around their neck while they're trying to swim. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's so great," but he's got an injury problem. He's been struggling to keep weight on for the last 3 years. He's a guy that cannot keep weight on, and that's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're playing sports or just trying to live. If you're unable to stay at the weight you need to work at, you're going to get injuries. So I thought that was the most amazing thing they did, was be able to get out from underneath that.
Yeah, they did a great job. For those that don't know, that Ottawa traded Matt Murray to Toronto, and they had to hold some of his contract back. But I mean, this was the guy making $6 million a year. I think they held close to 2 million, or a little bit under 2 million. So they'll hold a little bit of that, but then I think he's got another 3 years left. So if
I
Matt
look forward
Murray,
to Davis will come on in a couple of weeks, and that'll be our insight into Ottawa. He's the assistant coach there, so we'll get a real good insight on that team.
We can talk about them some more, but we'll just kind of give you a little appetizer with it. They picked up Claude Giroux. They picked up Cam Talbot, the goalie. They picked up some guys that are going to be having a chip on their shoulder, and they picked up DeBrincat. I mean, they've got a 40-goal scorer, and just their offense they've added between Giroux and DeBrincat alone is really, really impressive.
They've gone the opposite way of Calgary in trying to keep a Tkachuk there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Calgary. Obviously, I guess we're talking about specific players now. It's I get it. I can totally understand why the Calgary fan base is a little bit choked.
I wanted to talk about, they get upset about guys wanting to leave Canada. Calgary's a very small market. It's about 600,000 people. So you're going to the gas station with and hockey's the number one thing, way above anything else. So when you're not invisible in any way in that town. And when you look at Gaudreau go to Columbus, what better team to be invisible with? No matter what they can win the Stanley Cup, they are still behind the college football team in that town. They will never be number one. After 8 years and being a kid coming into Calgary, I don't understand why you don't want to go to that. And also, it's different when it's exciting for Canadian kids to come down to Las Vegas, to Philadelphia, all these, these magical cities, even though they're not magical, they're just cities. But you're coming from Prince George to there, whereas most American kids, they're not coming from a small town America. They're coming from if you look where hockey's growing, it's not small towns, it's big cities. So now you're taking a kid from Los Angeles or Las Vegas and saying live in Calgary. They've got a real uphill battle against that. And I don't, and it's not I don't think it's something that Canada should be jealous about. It should be, how do we rework it? Because I'm sure if there was a European team, it would be a struggle to keep the Swedes. If there was a team in in Sweden that was in the NHL, wouldn't every Swede being traded out of Canada to play over there? To me,
absolutely, yeah. And you bring up a good point. Like, the game, but here's where I think the rub is. Canada, we grew up with it, so look at it like it was our game. It's our game. Like and in the States, you've got so many games, and
you got enough games,
and some wonderful comedians. But we've got all kinds down here in the States. On a given night, you've got so many different games that are going on. Like tonight, the All-Star game, baseball's in LA. Last night for the home run derby, they had 55,000 people at Dodger Stadium. When on a given night, Dana
Bryson's kids were out there shagging balls for the home run derby.
Oh, were they? We probably saw them last night. Dana, I'll have to ask Dana about that. But so on a given night in one of these big American cities, you could have multiple events going on. And I'll give you an example. In Vegas, there's multiple events going on, and I'm not even talking about sports, about everything. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what's going on. but hockey still takes precedence over all events in the Canadian cities. And
Mhm.
so when they see these guys come up and then it wasn't like Goudreau was there for a cup of coffee. He was there for what, 8 or 9 years.
Mhm.
Um, he was there a long time. Looks like Kachuk's on his way out now too. It's tougher. I get it, and it I could see where people would feel slighted, but
But
I mean,
don't feel like you can't put that back on yourself. So
no,
maybe it's next time the best you don't pick the best kid because you're gonna lose them after a certain amount of time. You pick the
no,
kid
you're gonna pick the best kid, Ian. But it's just like us. Like we've been down here a long time, right?
Mhm.
And it's it's. I mean, you don't forget where you came from. These guys
Yeah.
started down here, and I'll give you an example. As great as Austin Matthews is, the Toronto Maple Leafs would still be on the front page of the paper in Toronto if he wasn't there. And Sportsnet and TSN, that's all they talk about. But
Mhm.
could you imagine if Austin Matthews, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, was
Mhm.
down there and how much that would that would tilt the, of
If
selling the game
when
if, well, when. But here's the thing. And but the Arizona Cardinals and the Phoenix Suns and the Diamondbacks in Major League Baseball are still going to be ahead of the Arizona Coyotes. But somebody like that could be earth changing in driving money, driving the market. Whereas in Toronto, whether Austin Matthews is there or not, it's not going to make as big a deal. Now, I'm not
right.
saying that all the stars, like look at what McDavid does in Edmonton. I mean, he brings the whole view of the league on that team. That's another small market team. But I mean, he's a Canadian kid too. So I don't know. I mean, you're right. When you have like, here's what is happening to Johnny Gaudreau. Like people are choked. Johnny Gaudreau played out his contract, and he had an opportunity to go anywhere he wanted. Okay,
Mhm.
now not every team wanted him, and not every team could afford him. People seem just disgusted by the fact he went to Columbus. Oh, he's got no chance there. He's got none of this, none of that. Well, there was a team called the Vegas Golden Knights that came in a couple of years ago into the league that no one thought would win 20, 25 games, and they ended up in the Stanley Cup final. So you never know, you know,
Right.
what his impact on that organization is going to be. And you're right, they are going to be number 2 or 3 in that market forever. So someone might say, well, why wouldn't you want to go play in Calgary or somewhere else where you're the big fish in the pond? And I don't know.
That's not what everybody
I,
wants though.
I can't answer that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and it's a
He
it's
wants
a
to play.
gift.
He may just want to play hockey. He may not want to sell the game. Like that's up to him. You know what I
Well,
mean?
this
He
is a
might
kid
not have
that,
ever wanted to be called Johnny Hockey. He just wanted to play the game.
yeah. I mean, he doesn't seem to really love to have all the attention kind of focused on him. I mean, over the course of the summer, people will kind of, I think, and even near the start of the season, that they'll forget that he's kind of in Columbus, right? It's not like he went to the Rangers or the
Right.
Bruins or one of these big teams, or was the latest addition in
When
Vegas.
he when he actually gonna when's one of the big games on TV gonna actually be Columbus? Probably when he goes back to Calgary. That'll be their biggest game of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because even if he's able to get them going and they're a competitive team in that division, are you gonna, is he going to be able to turn them into like what McDavid's turned Edmonton into is must see TV? And
Mhm.
I I am a little concerned though because I see it in Winnipeg with our buddy Flats. I've seen it in Ottawa, and now we're seeing a little bit of a drift in Calgary where they're not able to keep some of their top guys. And but Ottawa's said enough's enough. They were able to trade for DeBrincat. They were able to sign Giroux for 3 years, and they were able to get Cam Talbot. So you know what? There's hope there. Are these guys superstars? Well, DeBrincat sure has the potential. There was only 15 guys that scored 40 goals last year, and Giroux has been a top player in the league for a long, long time. So we'll see what happens. But I can see where Calgary fans would be a little bit
It's also
and
a team game, and if you can build a team out of these players that are good and make them exceptional, you'll have an easier time keeping those players. There's always going to be one guys that are going to see greener grass on the other side of the fence, right? There's no way you're ever going to stop that. So
yeah, you're not going to stop them.
why put your effort into trying to stop that instead of trying to build your grass greener? So,
Well, and one of the things that was brought up today
and
in Calgary.
I'm brilliant.
Well, you
I'm brilliant.
You are very, very smart.
I'm very smart.
Very,
Nice
very
roll of the eyes. Yeah, you're very smart.
very, very intelligent. But think about this, okay? No,
Television.
you can take this wherever you want to go with it. But one of the things that was brought up today in the article I read on, the possibility of Matthew Tkachuk being the next guy to Calgary is, well, what have they done to try and keep him? Well, they throw a lot of money at him, but like the Saddle Dome, I played in the Saddle Dome, and I haven't been in the league for.
It's horrible.
I mean, thank God that the Saddle Dome and MSG in New York is never going anywhere. But they've been fighting about a new building in Calgary forever. Edmonton just went and did it. Edmonton has 2 superstars there and some other guys that want to come along and play. I'm not saying that a building would change the way things are. A lot of guys look at it strictly money, dollars and cents, tax brackets, and the rest of it. And I get it, but one of the things that Calgary is going to have to really look at doing is you have to figure out this building, because you go into these buildings that
quit relying on the government to build it for you.
Yeah, well, you look at the building, look at Staples or Crypto in LA. I mean, this thing's unbelievable. Look at the T-Mobile in Vegas. The United Center. Look at Ball Arena in Denver. And these are amazing buildings. And Calgary's not the only one that has this issue. At least Calgary's got a fan base. Arizona is going to play in front of 5,000 people next year. So, I mean, I don't. And you say
Trent Franson, with the best line ever. I said, "What happened to Stetcher?" He said, "Oh, he went back to college at University of Arizona."
Yeah, he signed it in Arizona, but there's not a steady stream of guys wanting to sign with Arizona either.
Right.
And so maybe for a few different reasons. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I can remember.
I'm curious. I'm curious if that's where relegation comes into. If you drop the league down to 30 teams and add 2 to the AHL and up the talent a little bit there, and the top 2 teams come out of the AHL and into the NHL kind of thing. You know what I mean? Do relegation kind of like soccer does.
Well, I mean, it works for them. I'm not sure how it would work in the NHL, but
because just think about soccer. Soccer's in basically one city. It's suburbs against suburb a lot of times.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Canadian teams, this is just another example of how it can be a little tougher. Like we see it in Winnipeg, we've seen it in Ottawa, although it looks like it's getting better. We are now seeing it in Calgary, where despite their best efforts and what they want to pay this guy, he decided to move on. And I don't have anything, if I was a huge Calgary Flames fan, of course I'd be disappointed. But
you should be disappointed.
Well, I mean, you're disappointed. You lose your best player you've had probably in 20 or 30 years, right? Maybe ever. And so, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But I don't know what else they could have done. Like, I mean, people are like, "Oh, we should have moved him." Yeah, I guess looking back, you could have. But they offered the man over $10 million a year, and he said, "You know what? I want to go somewhere else." So it's like, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I just think that he was always, he looks like he was always kind of destined for this, somewhere in the States. And I think people would have felt better if it was New Jersey, but New Jersey's no better team than.
I would have said that I would have thought Johnny Gaudreau would have stayed in Calgary more than Tkachuk. I don't think Tkachuk's got a chance. I don't think they have a chance. Snowball's chance in hell in keeping him.
No, you're gonna, I don't know how that
Get something for him.
relationship, yeah, I don't know how that relationship, how you get a long-term deal done with him.
And I know
Um,
JT Miller's gone too. He wants to go.
does he want to go? So, you know, I mean,
I called me up the other day and said, Ian, and I said, I'll start the car, JT. I'm driving it.
yeah, Ian's gonna cut the deal, so,
I'm gonna cut the
uh,
deal.
don't know, I mean, but but here's the other
But
side of it, I guess.
there's nobody that hasn't earned that right to say, I want to try to go someplace.
Well, just remember, everybody a few years ago was taught, this was 3 years ago, Kachuk signed that deal, bridge contract that was gonna walk him right to free agency for 7 million a year. They've had 3 years to figure this out,
Mhm.
right? So they just qualified him and make 9 million if he stays in Calgary next year. There's no way that if they can't extend him, they gotta move him, and they'll get some really good pieces for him. They swung and
Sure.
missed with Johnny Gaudreau. They can't swing and miss with Kachuk, and they swung and missed with their best offer, which has got to be a little bit disappointing. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I was probably as surprised as anybody that Johnny decided to go to Columbus, but here I hope he's able to help that
Johnny, say it ain't
organization.
so.
I hope he can help the organization. I really do.
Absolutely. Helps the
You know,
league
and,
out.
and
Helps the league out again. If Columbus becomes, and right now when I look at Columbus, I think back in the days, what was the Colorado, the Denver Rockies?
yeah, the
Colorado.
Denver Rockies, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
or
think.
the
I think
Colorado Rockies.
Colorado Rockies, and I also think the Atlanta teams right now. I don't see much going on there. And anytime I think this is the first time we've seen the news of somebody going in, not coming out of there too.
Yeah, well, and I think if you're management, you've got Patrick Laine, who's an absolute sniper that they're trying to
Mhm.
re-sign. Well, now all of a sudden Johnny Gaudreau's coming to town. That is going to perk his interest along
Yeah.
with the other guys that are there.
Which
So
kind of interesting that they haven't been able to pull it off since I guess they've been paying attention to everything else that's going on with Gaudreau, but you think they would have signed that deal right away.
you never know. I mean, it's kind of the dog days of the hockey season right now. There's some interesting things, like obviously Gaudreau going where he did is interesting. The guys that are the big names not signed yet.
Mhm.
But I do believe there's some big deals out there to be made still, but maybe it's going to take a little bit of time in the summer for these guys to figure this all out. But
By the way,
we
that's
get,
the longest painting I've ever seen. The longest and shortest painting.
yeah, yeah. That I think what's that? San Francisco in the background there over my shoulder. I threw that together this afternoon for you.
What
So
is it? Looking out the back of a submarine?
I think that's where I think that might be coming from. What's the island?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. With the prison?
Alcatraz. It's
Yeah.
around where Alcatraz is.
Yeah.
It might be. You know what?
I
That
just
might
got
be
to swim
actually.
there. If I can swim there, I've got freedom.
It might actually be Treasure Island, which people might or might not realize. That's the Bay Bridge over to my left, I believe. So Treasure Island in San Francisco was the first place where they flew to Hawaii from.
Oh,
Mainland United States. Yep, Treasure Island.
goodness. That is
Thank you very much.
Jeff Sharble with knowledge.
Knowledge, and here's some more. Buy your lottery tickets. It's 550 million tonight, megabucks in the States. If you're down here, get
Mega
your tickets.
dollars. I'm gonna go get some as soon as this goes. So,
Yeah.
do you have any shout outs this week? I gotta go buy some lottery tickets.
Not really. No, I would normally have a shout out, but I don't think I got one this week.
Everybody can this week.
Yeah, you know what?
People.
I'm going to give a shout out real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to give a shout out to Randy this week, because Randy, we went out for dinner on Saturday night for Michelle's birthday, and Randy was awesome. He came along and he says to me, he goes, "I'm picking you up for breakfast Sunday morning. We're going out for breakfast." So Sunday morning, 10:30 came along, knocks on the door. I said, "Grab a coffee, Randy. There's not much going on in the house right now." So we ended up getting out about 45 minutes later, but we ended up watching the end of the British Open. So shout out, thanks for breakfast this week, Randy. And
Mr. Morton, thanks for
yeah,
breakfast. That's nice.
Yep.
I'll give a shout out to Randy as well. Randy, thanks for taking my friends out for breakfast. It's very kind of you. Randy, just a sweet man. Shout out to Randy.
Love to all.
I love to all.